Welcome to Lemonade Learning, a refreshing look at learning today. We serve up high-impact practical strategies alongside honest and energizing stories to help educators.
Make the most of your moments, lead and learn with purpose, and craft lifetime lemonade from the sweets and sours of education. Join us for a glass. Hey y'all, it's Lainey.
Lainey's in Texas, and so she's using y'all. I'm so excited. It's Bree.
And we have with us my longtime friend, mentor, and all-around amazing guy, Mike Lawrence.
So good to be here. So exciting.
And we don't know what to do because we have never done the podcast in person.
Well, I'm going to say I'm disappointed I didn't get a matching shirt as well.
Well, I mean there will be a contest, I'm sure, at some point in time to win a lemon head shirt. Like,
I love it. All right, Mike. So I'm going to try and get my bearings as we do this in a very different way. But we always start off with our sweet and sour.
Okay.
So what's going on with you? What's sweet and sour?
So sweet's the end of a very difficult year. My wife's a teacher, and so she had to do the room and Zoom, which I describe as the worst of both worlds.
Yes.
It's neither great teaching in person and not great online teaching. So that's the sweet, definitely. And the kids are thrilled, and my son's finished his first year of college, and so that's the sweet, that we've made it through. We survived, sometimes thrived. Oh, yeah. My son taught himself guitar during the whole COVID thing. So there's been some moments that I don't think would have happened otherwise.
Okay, this is my first experience with the phrase room and Zoom. I like that. I have not, I've High Flex and Simo and all that, but room and Zoom, I like it.
And there's roomers and there's Zoomers.
Yes.
It's the students that are in the room, and then the Zoomers are the ones in Zoom.
And I'm sure, given whatever age group you have, you probably have some other spellings of rumors as well that come through into that. So I like it.
So I also love that you said it's the worst of both worlds.
Worst of both worlds, yes.
I could not agree more. Mm-hmm. It is not how it's supposed to be. And I've had to do it, and you probably had to do it too, even pre-COVID. Yeah. You've had this where people can't get there, and so they're remote. And it's just, you always feel like you're doing a disservice to someone. It's either the room or the Zoom.
But if it's purely online, you can maximize the benefits of that, and you can figure out cool things to do that you wouldn't be able to do in person.
100%.
But when it's both, it kind of limits that potential benefit. And the same thing with face-to-face. There's a lot of things that we know as teachers you can do in the classroom. Mm-hmm. They're fabulous. That when you've got a set of them that are remote, it's not the same thing. It's the worst of both worlds.
So let's kind of think about this, because I do appreciate longtime ed techers, right? We've all kind of gone into this, and we've heard lots of vocabulary thrown around throughout the years, right? So we've had BYOD situations, we've had one-to-one situations, we've had, and I think that's one of the things that's tricky when you do have that dual environment, right? Because when you have, whether it's a one-to-one, whether you have everyone in an online situation or whatever, you're preparing for a similar experience using a cohesive set or suite of tools, right? And so then you can kind of prepare, all right, everybody's in an online situation, this is how I'm going to have it.
Acceptable level of similarity.
Right. Yeah. One of the challenges for me when I was in the classroom and I was in a BYOD environment was preparing for the unprepared, the unexpected, or, almost preparing for the unpreparing, and vice versa, and all of that back and forth, right? Because
easy for you to say.
Yeah, it sounded so much easier until you got in there, and then you were like, oh wait, well, I didn't ever think about somebody who might bring in a Kindle, like a Kindle Fire, or a whatever it was, back in the day, a Nintendo, or any of those elements, because you were thinking, maybe it's an iOS device, maybe it's a Chromebook, I can prepare for that. But then there was always an extra layer that came on, and I feel like that is similar to this experience that we've had this year, where maybe in theory, room and Zoom seemed like it was going to work, right? In actual application, much.
If you didn't think about it longer than 30 seconds, you thought, yeah, this is perfect.
So great.
But anyone that applied too much thinking to it, I think quickly figured it out. The takeaway I have is that there were some schools years ago that started talking not about one-to-one, but two-to-one. And I thought, man, what are you, just rolling in wealth? How are you even considering
burning
beyond?
Money?
but that really shows some wisdom, because when you get to a COVID-like environment, or to your point, being prepared for the things that you can't prepare for, when there's two devices, suddenly you've got some flexibility. Like, okay, everyone use the second device, the tablet, for this, and the laptop for this, and then you've got some level of flexibility to adjust. And those schools that did that years ago, as crazy as they thought they were so much more prepared. And I facilitated a session at DLAC, and we went around and did a one word for how you felt over this last year. And there was a number of them that said prepared.
Ooh. Okay, so can we back up for a minute? Because I don't think people know where we are. We haven't actually said that. We are in Austin. And so, yes, exactly. Wait for it. And it's a hybrid. Technically, there is an online component, really well done. But we are face-to-face doing in-person sessions, which has been kind of magical.
Same room. We're all vaccinated.
Yes,
Same
we're
room.
all vaccinated. Yes.
A real live conference in person.
Yeah, and so this is an interesting conference because we have, and that might be representative in the response of Prepared, is that we have a high percentage of schools that are fully online schools here, and then we have ones that had already been doing hybrid learning, and so this is a population that should have felt prepared, right?
Yeah.
And not just online in this year's circumstance.
No, pre-COVID, fully online schools.
Been doing it for decades in some cases.
Yes.
Like Florida Virtual School started in the 90s, and they're well represented at this event. But I think it's also a very frustrating year for them, because people have been throwing around terms like online learning and blended learning, which they hold very dear to their heart, because they've been doing it for decades, and they're pointing out what you're describing, this is not online learning. This is not what
Princess
we've
Bride
been
moments,
doing.
right? Like, I don't think that word means what you really think it means.
Exactly. You keep using that word. And so they've been frustrated sort of trying to communicate and educate the parents and the audience and the media with what you're calling this is not what we do, and we're the professionals. And something John Watson, who organizes the whole thing, pointed out is that far too rarely were the experts in DLAC invited into the discussion. They were like never consulted. Hey, our district's going to launch an online school. Hey, all right, let's find some folks that might know how to do that. Now we'll just do it ourselves.
We got this. We got this. Yeah.
So far too often that was what happened.
So one of the things that we've seen in the last 18 months has been this notion of collaboration over competition, right? And how that has really kind of come to the top. And those that have really seen a lot of success in the 18 months that we've been kind of navigating some of this are those who did reach out and invite in those experts and acknowledge that, hey, you know what? Whether it's online, whether it's one-to-one, whether it's homeschool, whether it's parent communication, whatever it may look like, this isn't the first time this has ever happened before. There are people who know how to do this. Let's pause and live in the situation, lean into the suck, if you will, as a la Brene Brown, but acknowledge that there are really, really difficult things that are happening here, but not things that we have never experienced before.
Not insurmountable.
Right. And so when we bring and invite those people in, we can actually gain from their expertise. But when we don't take advantage of that, we don't get that wisdom.
And there were some great highlights of districts that did lean on, ed tech folks that we've known for years. I feel like it was our year to get called up to the big leagues. Suddenly, everybody that I'd known doing ed tech was wildly busy, because they were like, you, Lainey, you know a little about the technology in the classroom. Can you do? And so a lot of the folks suddenly became quite busy, not just with their day job, suddenly being put in charge of, here's your regular everyday job, and then we also would like you to set up, build, and run an online school for the whole district. Then there's the folks that consult that were suddenly in high demand, because this is not, again, as you pointed out, something that's been unheard of.
As we say in Texas, our first rodeo.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it pulled off, so I'm very glad
I'm here for you.
Texan
I'm
could
here
step
for you.
in with the
ready to represent.
Ready phrase.
Yes.
I think one of the things that I've noticed, first of all, I'd love for us to kind of unpack a little bit what it was like to be in person, because I think that's an interesting, and we're a little bit saturated right now because we're on day 3 and it's been like
packed up,
just kind of as much as we can absorb and be around each other and, all vaccinated, safely being close to each other.
Well, and pause into that, not just the again, overwhelm of that happens in learning environments anyways, right? Like 3 days of new information, challenging thought, all of that, but also the reintroduction into socialization, right?
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh. I mean, you can already tell some of the energy is high because it's just that moment of like, I get to see people in real life. And that's really exciting. You know, you're kind of having that
awkward
dog coming home, you know, like somebody coming home from a long trip and the puppy's like jumping around and all of that. But it's overwhelming.
The countless interactions of like, are we handshaking? Are we elbow bumping? Are we?
They have
so
colors,
again,
right?
like let's use Mike's.
So they had 3 different colors. It's hard to see. Mine is yellow.
Yes.
And they had.
And yellow means
that it's cautious. You know, I may not be open to a hug. I want to sort of play it by ear. And then the red was please no contact. I'm either, you know, for whatever reason. And then there's the
Laney's
green, the huggers.
I nearly tackled Allison Powell to the ground with a hug. We're both vaccinated. I cleared it with her ahead of time. In fact, there was a gift that I sent her where I was like, this will be me hugging you as soon as I see you. Are we good? And she said, I look forward to it. So I did basically tackle her.
So I thought that was a particularly wise approach, especially being one of the first, if not the first, hybrid conference out there. They've established some way to make that a visual cue. Right. I talked to a couple of attendees that wished it was the lanyard so that people wouldn't have to awkwardly look down at your chest to figure out what your color is. And some people, it was too brief. They didn't have time to look down, so they just went in for the hug or the handshake. So they suggested lanyard, or the whole badge could be a certain color.
Oh, that's smart.
That's especially if you know the person, and you're not. I mean, you might not need to look to say, oh, that's Mike. Yeah. But you haven't like cleared it out, like green. Yeah,
is that I like that.
Well, we're like renegotiating the social contract in real time. It's
almost learning how to be a human being again.
I rediscovered these things called business cards. Do you remember these?
Oh, and they have been. I've seen them exchanged here. It's like it's like going back and running tape from the olden days. It's very interesting.
It's all black and white vignette around the corner. Yeah, business cards. They're a thing.
But I will say, like, I've learned a lot. There's been a very, like, healing feeling to this, like, where people are coming together and they're processing through it. There's been a lot of venting, but not in a negative way. It's been in a, like, reflective, like, okay, well, this was hard. And again, a lot of the people here are in fully virtual schools, so part of their trauma is something they've dedicated their lives to and helped improve and fine-tune, and it can still get better, but something that they have done really, really well for a long period of time, getting, kind of smushed in with things that were basically duct taped together just for the emergency remote situation. So.
And also from like the logistics standpoint too, right? Like watching people come into the room, trying to figure out how many people can sit at a table.
Yes.
When we have breakout sessions, there were many rooms that I was in where there's like one person at a table, and we're facilitating and designing conversations to happen, and it's like, oh, you mean I'm supposed to talk to this person right next to me, or at the table, where we had definitely had a comfort level now with chat room only type situations. So again, re-entry into some of these circumstances.
Yeah, and to the point we talked about earlier, Room and Zoom, this is a hybrid conference, and I moderated one of those hybrid sessions. So there's in-room attendees, there's in-room presenters, and then my role as a moderator is to watch the virtual attendees, and if they had a question, I was the guy Donahuing it in the room with the microphone. So for the younger viewers, that means I'm running around with the microphone.
I always say Sally Jesse Raphael. So like I'm impressed you went with Donahue. Like that's a
deep reach.
It's deep. And so I had to do that and also watch for the comments online. And so sometimes I was handing a microphone to somebody, and sometimes I was like, oh, and we have a comment from Julie, and Julie says this, and I shared it with live with the facilitator, and they were fabulous. But it was a new exercise for a conference producing organization to figure out how do you manage and the equity of the thousands of online attendees as well as the in-room folks.
But let's pause there for a second, because like what a great realization of a best practice right there, right? Of like a novel concept of a moderator,
yes,
as well as the expert or
lead.
So that one person not trying to do all of it simultaneously in the same situation to make sure that the best experience was for every level of participant, whether they were in person or whatever. And so that's been really cool to see that happen here at this conference, to where they are leaning into some of the things that we've learned along the way.
And they actually signed up 2 moderators. I was just trying to be brief, but there were 2 of us, one monitoring just online and one of us monitoring in the room, and we collaborated to make sure that we were watching both to make sure it happened. So they really doubled down.
So let's kind of use this moment to springboard from that, right? So we've leaned into the suck that was 2020, 2021, and things are moving forward. We're at DLAC, where predominant online virtual circumstances, they're used to this, right? And it was a little bit interesting for me to hear that many of those that are in that online space also saw a lot of struggle through 2020, 2021 for various reasons, right? Like new people.
Sometimes an influx of people who would not have previously wanted to do online, but okay, well, this is going to be better to go with an online school who knows what they're doing than watching the duct tape version.
Right. And so lots of other pieces that, duct tape, or like the responses, how great, we have somebody who's
triage learning.
Yeah, right. Oh, yes. So what were some of the other things that you might have heard along the way, or whether it be from them dealing with experiences that happened in this last school year, or as someone who also has in the past as well as now continues to facilitate conferences, transitioning from in-person conferences to...
No, I have a great example. Yeah. I have a great example. I've been involved in the California Student Media Festival, a nonprofit effort it's been now in its 55th year. I've been involved less than 55 years.
Oh, that's funny.
I directed for 10 years, and now I just support. And in any case, we always do an in-person sort of, award granting ceremony, like the Oscars for kids in California. And they come down and they get the plaque and they accept the award, and it's just touching. It's my favorite day of the year. Well, we obviously had to transition that to online. And at first, we saw that with the deficit mentality of like, oh, we don't get to do this. We won't have popcorn. We won't have that. The music won't play. And we thought about all the things that we were losing. And then we started thinking about it in the positive side of things. And this year we went virtual again. And we said, you know what? Since we're not in person, we can invite anyone to give these awards away.
Yep.
So we invited the first and still only female California Superintendent of Schools, Delaney Easton, to come. And she spoke for 5 minutes, and she's amazing if you've never heard her speak. And she also got to give away some of the grand prize awards. So these kids had this experience that, maybe she would have come to one of our award ceremonies, but she would have had to fly down or get in a car. Didn't have to do that. Just fired up the thing, made sure the lighting was good, gave her cue, and then she went off and gave an award. We invited another superintendent from the Bay Area. We invited a park ranger. Actually, they're called interpreters, and they gave award. One of them gave an award from underwater.
No way.
On camera, gave an award to the kid. So the kid's like, how am I getting this award from this park ranger guy underwater?
Scuba Steve, who's
Again,
showing
not something we could have done in the theater.
No.
And so we took it and flipped it into the positive perspective. And so now we're going to go okay, next year, if we do this in person, we're also you're going to have an online experience. And let's see, can we invite our friends LeVar Burton, or could we invite, a director or a writer, and tell them, you don't have to come down to the theater. We just want you to participate in the online ceremony. And so it opened up some creative outlets for us to think about it from a completely different perspective. So I loved that as an event producer.
And I love that you talked about, like, instead of you moving from that deficit to that appreciative inquiry theory model, right? Like Dr. Cooper Ryder and that whole idea of like, let's find our strengths and let's build in from that, and leaning into something that, for all intents and purposes, student media, video, and things like that really can't exist without technology.
Right.
And then leaning into technology to enhance and celebrate that circumstance. I think that's a fantastic example. And I would imagine something that, like you said, is going to continue to build forward. It's not that was a great Band-Aid, and now we're going to, go wholeheartedly back the other way, but, really kind of building forward with that. So.
Yeah.
So we stole you for like as much time as we could get you, but how are we doing? Are we okay? I want to make sure we have
just about the time. Yeah.
All right. So
no, we have like 5 minutes left.
okay, we got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I have another example if you want. Here.
Yes, please. Let's.
So I have an 18-year-old, and so he was class of 2020. So perfect timing, right?
Oh my
So
gosh, I know,
so
this
no
broke my heart.
prom, no high school musical, all the things again from a deficit mentality. But I give huge kudos to El Dorado High School, the school he graduated from. They found a way to turn it into a positive. So the graduation ceremony became drive-through, and they had the principal up on a stage with the backdrop, and all the parents and the kid would be in a car, and you'd drive up, and it was your turn, and you would hand a card with your name on it to a row of teachers. And the teacher that my son was able to hand his card to was his favorite teacher, his choir teacher. So not only do they know your name and how to pronounce it, but it was special for him to have his name read by his favorite teacher. And then he jumps up on stage, and we're right there.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
'Cause think
Front
about
row.
any graduation
Everyone's
ceremony.
got front
You're in
row.
a stadium, and you're listening to 300 kids' names that you don't care about except for the one. And then you're also far, far away, and so you're on the Zoom thing trying to catch it and get the moment. But we were right there, 10 feet away at curbside.
No Zoom necessary.
No Zoom necessary. And so we were just 10 feet away, and we watched that thing happen. And what was really special is the principal took out his own phone and took a selfie with our kid. And we watched the whole thing because it was also live streamed. We went back to the house, and we had it on the screen to see, Jay go by. And we saw all these kids go by. He never took another selfie. It was just our kid. We're like, that's super special. So they found a way to make it personal, right?
Yeah.
To get us close to it, to get that special teacher to read your name, and to provide an opportunity. And again, kudos to that principal. He stood there for 4 hours. And everyone else that was standing next to him, of course, stood there for 4 hours to do a much longer graduation
Right.
ceremony, but one that still honored the kids. The other really special thing they did is that, like many schools, there's the one big stadium that you use in the district. And so I didn't graduate from my actual high school. I graduated from the high school across town. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Well, this is the very first class ever, and perhaps forever, that graduated at El Dorado High School because they did it in a drive-through
Right.
in front of the school. Every other graduating class, would have graduated from the neighboring high school because they have the stadium.
Yeah.
So they found ways to make it special and give something new to the kids. Again, sort of like what we did at the media festival.
Yeah, I will, and value that through the time, right? Because I do think that that's important. I mean, you acknowledged all of the education, all the educators, principal, faculty that gave up of their time to do that, and we've seen that.
Well,
tenfold.
and I
Yeah.
would bet,
They
I
just
would bet if
stepped it
you
up.
check with them, it was really valuable for them.
Yeah.
They felt more
Yeah.
connected,
Right.
and they had a better. It might have been a longer experience, but they felt like they had a richer experience having that more one-to-one.
Because I do think that that's one of those things where, I mean, let's be real and true. Like, if it were a quote unquote traditional graduation experience, right, with everyone there, you've got all of these people, and if it were a full on 4 or 5 hour graduation, there would be like mayhem, right? Like, no one's going to sit through that for that amount of time. That said, giving that undivided attention individually for each one of them, you want that, right? Like, after 12 years of K-12 experience, where we've oftentimes told our kiddos, like, come on, it's gonna be worth it, like, it's gonna be in there, you really do want to have a little bit of pause of time to step back, acknowledge, soak it in, and really celebrate that. So I think that I thank you for sharing that, and I also think what a great reminder for all of us of the time that we put in on it is extensive, and it's involved, but so very worth it, both for ourselves, like in that reward opportunity, but for those that we've poured so much into.
And appreciated by the parents and the kids.
Well, the energy here has been really positive, and I think we're all optimistic moving forward that hopefully, those who have been doing it really well still know there's room for even them to improve, and those who have struggled the most over this last year are still walking away with things that they learned, and now there's this opportunity to see all of the options we have moving forward and to pick the very best, having more choice than we did over the last year and a half. So
And go back to better.
go back to better. Ooh, I like that. Oh, you might just name the episode.
Ooh, hey, there you
Check
go.
that. Check.
Stick the landing.
Yes.
All right,
yes.
so we're going to try and end on time so we can get you to your next appointment.
Yes.
Because you are a busy man.
I appreciate it. Thank
you are, I just could gush about you forever. But what I'd love for you to do is tell people how to connect with you, how to find all of your amazing work.
Just on the rare chance that you're not already connected.
Yeah.
Because
there's a good chance you are. If you're listening, you probably already know.
There's probably a good crossover with Lemonade. Lemon Heads. Is that the? Yeah.
Well, and
we're testing that out. We're
testing
that
yeah.
out. Yeah.
And really quickly, I have to say, there's a person whose name we shall not mention because his name has been mentioned way too many times on this show.
Voldemort?
Yeah, that one. I knew you were gonna catch my Harry Potter reference there. But there is a gentleman that I met because of you, and that gentleman introduced me to Bree. And so I feel like it's very fair to say that Lemonade Learning would not be here if it wasn't for Mike Lawrence.
Wow.
I don't want to understate it. I think that's the truth.
The prime mover. And we met because we were at the same district, Newport Mesa, and you substitute taught for Julie, my wife.
Yes, I did.
One time. She was the rock star sub. She could only get her one time.
I hear.
That's how in demand Lainey was. Even then.
I hear you're a big deal.
She's kind of a big deal.
I hear both of you are a big deal.
I got our T-shirt that says it.
And I have a hard time wearing it, to be honest, because it feels a little bit.
You were.
I mean,
you
around
were
the
in
house, I wear
You're
it
like,
all the
that's
time.
right, friends. Here we go.
And I show my husband Lawrence, remember who you live with.
Stuart Smalley moments in the mirror.
So to reach me, if you want to find me, I'm at the Tech Maverick. So it's just Tech Maverick on Twitter and Instagram. And I set up a shingle at Maverick Learning, which is at mavlearn.com. Easy way to find me. And track me down. I have a fantastic day job at Jamf, and I've just started it just over a month ago, and I love that work, and I'm really thrilled to contribute and help organizations succeed with their Apple products. But yeah, you can always find me at MavLearn and on Twitter and LinkedIn and all that.
So you are one of the most innovative people I've ever met. You think out of the box, and also, I just have to say it one more time, not only is Lemonade Learning here because of you, but you connect and lift up so many people. And so because I've known you so long, I want you to know that I see that, and I have not taken it for granted, and I appreciate you, and I want to make sure and fully embarrass you before you leave. You are amazing, and thank you for taking this time out of our in-person event.
Thank you. I'm just thrilled to be the first in-person guest. Hello.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yes, we're thrilled to have you. I mean, and not only just like our first in-person guest, like this is the first time Lainey and I have sat next to each other to
And
do
record.
like this is
Landmark.
This is
landmark.
big time.
Yeah.
Big time. All right. Well, thank you all for listening or watching wherever you are, and we'll catch you next time.
Absolutely. Check this guy out. Good stuff.
If you enjoyed this batch of Lemonade Learning, please check out our website, lemonadelearning.us, for more resources. Be sure to subscribe today so you don't miss out on future lessons, laughter, or lemonade.
And if you're feeling really generous, please go to Apple Podcasts to submit a review so other educators know the value. One last thing, Learning and Lemonade are best together. So please connect with us on social media using the hashtag Lemonade Learning to share your story. Plus, we're always looking to give away stickers and swag.